Hello, District 41 families. This video is going to show you how to understand your child's level of language proficiency in Spanish and also help you understand how to read your child's AAPPL test report. For context, we use descriptors that come from the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. We call this AAPPL, which is the acronym for their title. AAPPL offers an assessment called the AAPPL Assessment of Performance Toward Proficiency in Languages. And of course, we just use the simple acronym AAPPL or AAPPL testing when we're talking about this test. AAPPL measures language proficiency levels. And you can see from our diagram here that we have different levels of proficiency descriptors to help us understand what the different levels are based on ACTFL. If you've received a child's report on their AAPPL performance, it will look something like this. One page will show the overall description and the different ranges of proficiency levels, how those levels correspond to the titles and descriptor names in this chart. And then the second page will have your child's information about name, school, language, date the assessment was taken. Then you can see that the parts below look very specifically at how your child performed on the AAPPL test. As an example, this child's score on interpersonal listening and speaking, or basically the ability to complete dialogue and conversations in a language, is at a level I1. Here we can see what students are able to do at a level I1 in these skills or domains, and then suggestions for how to advance to the next level. This student performed at an advanced level in reading, a very high intermediate level in listening, and a very high intermediate level in writing. And once again, each of these domains have descriptions about what a student's capabilities are at these levels in Spanish, and then strategies for advancing skills in the language. Here's a close-up view of what the descriptions for each of the levels looks like. There are three main categories: novice, intermediate, and advanced. And each of these levels is broken down further as we saw on the chart. Students who are in fifth grade will take a Form A as it is more appropriate for their grade level. Form A ranges from a novice beginner all the way up to an intermediate high, or as ACTFL says, N1 to I4. Form B is really for older students. So eighth graders and high school students, for example, would take the Form B. Form B starts reviewing levels at the advanced novice range, N4, and goes all the way up to an advanced level. One thing to note, on the eighth grade forms, where students would take Form B, sometimes if a student is a beginner in the language, they may receive a message on their form that says below N4. This means that the student scored below N4, receiving what could be an N1, N2, or N3 level. But we don't get that specific number using the Form B. Also, for the speaking parts, there may be a score that says unrateable. This means that the student either didn't fully complete the speaking section or the rater was unable to make a determination of level based on the samples that were provided. Looking very specifically at one of the examples that we just talked about, again, talking about communication and conversation skills in the language, the example student scored at an I1. Here is more specific information about what that means, and then a strategy for advancing to the next level. So you can see that the report gives us information in 3 areas: the student score, a description of what the student can do, and a strategy for advancing to the next level. Our students are assessed in the 4 language domains: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Here is another close-up example of the student's reading score that we saw was at the advanced level. And again, the intermediate high level for listening. And then the writing score of intermediate high for writing. For context, I just wanted to share that we use these scores in a couple of different ways. For 8th graders, for example, using the Form B, we look at how close students are performing to the intermediate high to the advanced low levels. These levels are important to watch because these are the levels that students need to achieve in all 4 domains: reading, writing, speaking, and listening, in order to qualify for the seal of biliteracy, which they could earn at high school. In other words, students who receive an I5 level or higher in each of the 4 domains in Spanish could qualify for the seal of biliteracy for the foreign language part of the seal. For 5th graders, we have a pathway that we're looking at. We're hoping to see students hit the N4 or novice high level to indicate that they are on the trajectory for achieving the seal of biliteracy in high school. The seal of biliteracy is only offered at the high school level, and for our students, that would be Glenbard West. But looking at the AAPPL scores now helps us see how close they are on that pathway to receiving the seal. If you want to learn more information about the seal of biliteracy, you can go to the District 41 website, d41.org, and look for the Bilingual Parent Advisory Council page. There's a video there of a meeting that outlines and talks about the seal of biliteracy. In 8th grade, we use those scores along with teacher input to determine an appropriate placement for recommended high school Spanish courses. Again, in 5th grade, we use those scores to see how well our students are aligned with the pathway to achieving the seal. If you have any questions about your child's AAPPL score, you can contact your elementary school teacher, plus teacher, or your child's Hadley Spanish teacher. Thank you for joining me in the video today. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your child's Spanish teacher.